Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Good morning. I'm Bruce Ball, author of Quinn's Dilemma. It is, for me, difficult to write about something that I never did, but this book is almost like a diary. All the things that happened in it are pretty much in the book. I would say it's probably 90 to 95% exactly what happened. And it talks about a trap between the Justice Department, the mob, a notorious union brings intrigue, violence, and murder. It was interesting. I was hired by a brokerage firm to see if I couldn't turn around one of their offices, which was next to last on their list, and they were considering closing it because it wasn't profitable. And so they hired me, and having been in the business for a long time, I knew what to do, which was to invite or steal, depending on how you look at it, high-producing brokers from other firms. And one of which was doing a very, very large amount of money, $1 million a year. Needless to say, that made things a lot easier to keep the branch office that I was in profitable. But it came with what I didn't know, a lot of intrigue, like I said, murder, conflict. I give you an example. I got a call from a man in the FBI who said, "Come down to this motel and we'd like to greet you." And so I did. And as soon as I walked through the door, they said, "You're doing 7 to 10 years for bribery." I just looked at him. I couldn't believe that he was saying that. I asked, "Well, who am I bribing?" And he said, the head of the union. Well, I wasn't. But apparently the broker that I hired was. And the government, federal prosecutors were trying to remove the head of the union because he was in fact getting bribery. But the trial went on, and ultimately he got out of it, was found guilty, and got out of it the old-fashioned way. He died. And the person who took over was a friend of mine, so at least it wasn't that bad. But what happens is when you're writing a book like this, all you do is recall all the events that happened to you. And one such event is hiring the wife of the new union leader. And then I got an invite to hire the wife of the mob's hitman. Needless to say, I did it. I didn't want to be a memory for everybody, my family. But the beauty of it was these ladies were very good workers, and the intrigue part of this is where do you stand when you're caught between the mafia hitman, federal prosecutors, the FBI, and there's bribery going on, and you really can't do anything about it. When the new man came into the union, the bribery stopped, but until then, it was a little bit tense, to say the least. Perfect example is I happened to be riding in the car with the mob's hitman and looked in the back seat, and I saw a little bat. And I said, what is a little bat doing in the back seat? He says, I'll tell you what, why don't I pull over and show you? Immediately I knew my head wasn't strong enough to take the beating. So I said, oh, okay, not necessary. Let's just get to where we're going. But that was pretty much the theme, for lack of a better term, of the relationship. How do you stay legal and don't get involved with the mafia? Although I had lunch every Saturday with them and the union leaders and some people in the union and some others too. And whenever the mafia didn't want me to know what they were talking about, they would speak in Italian. Well, I can tell you how stupid you can get at times, because I went to college, and in college, my language requirement was Italian, so I could read Italian. And when people spoke, I understood what they're saying. And one day at lunch, I decided, I'll just be friendly with these gentlemen, and they're talking in Italian. And I started to talk back. The look in their eyes was, let's say, upsetting, because I knew that I had just made a tragic mistake in the fact that they now knew that I could understand a lot of what they were talking about. So I was very quick to tell them, gentlemen, I don't know really what's going on, and you need not worry about it. I wouldn't say anything to anybody. And obviously nobody killed me, because here I am. But, writing a book, when you have to think of things, somebody's writing something to me. I did not expect this to be based on actual evidence and personalities. You have an interesting life. You have an interesting story. Well, I'll tell you, in the beginning of the book, in the first couple of sentences, there are two phrases. Be careful what you wish for. Believe me, I was wishing for a good income and I got it. And be careful of what you say. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to read it for you. Be careful of what you wish for, and may you live an interesting life. Well, interesting lives can be very different. And this one certainly was. Dealing with the mafia, having Christmas parties with the mob's hitman, because his wife worked for me. And he would sit at a table all by himself because nobody wanted to sit with him. And I wanted to be hospitality person, and I'd go over and I'd sit down and talk to him, and he didn't say much, but it was, shall I say, an interesting experience. And I think you'll find that this book is rather interesting in that you need to know or want to know what is coming as a result of stupid things like speaking Italian to the mob. And I managed to get through. We went through a number of years working with this. I got called to a senior federal prosecutor in another city, and he told me that I was going to go to prison again for 7 to 10 years because I was bribing people. I was bribing, but there's something that he didn't know. The wife of the head of the union was working in my office. The wife of the mob's hitman was working in my office. And when it came at the time when stocks were called new issues, in other words, the shares were not publicly traded until the new issue came out. And what was not uncommon at all was for the new issue to, let's say, come out at $10 and close the day at 30. Yeah, I guess you could say you'd like to do that, and that'd be something you'd want to be a part of. And so that's what he was telling me. And I finally had to tell him, well, what you don't understand is each one of the employees has a special code in their account. And that code prohibits new issues from being purchased in those accounts. So I couldn't possibly have done what you say I've done. And I got up out of the chair and I said, goodbye. And we have somebody else sending something in here. Admire your courage and willingness to tell a story like this. What what happened really was I retired, and I found retirement somewhat boring. And I thought back on what I had done, and heaven knows that's interesting. To be dealing with the mafia, murderers, all kinds of events like that, and having the federal prosecutors breathing down your neck. I figured, gee, that might make a good story. And so again, I wrote Quinn's Dilemma. And it tells the story, I would say 90% accurate as to what happened. The good thing that happened in this was I met a young lady who I fell in love with and came to ultimately wound up marrying her. We were together for 33 years. Here's another message to me: to know that the book is almost a diary or based on actual. I'm curious to know more about the book. Well, if you're curious to know more about the book, I suggest you order it. You can get it from Amazon and you can get it from Barnes and Noble. You could also get it from Reader's Magnet, who is actually the publisher. And like I said, it is a diary, but I took a lesson from James Patterson, and if anybody knows, he's a very famous author. The idea is to, rather than just blah, blah, blah about what happened, I made it interesting, shall we say. But it was true. And I was the man who was living the interesting life. Let's see what Mary has to say. You always find a way to engage and challenge our thinking. I don't want to. Don't be challenged by your thinking on this, because it actually happened. This is not something that I had to make up. As I said, may you live an interesting life. Oh, I did. Somebody told me that was a Chinese curse. And interesting is certainly a good basis for a book. And trying to tell a story about your life for a decade, where you're dancing, shall we say, between the mafia, murderers, FBI, federal prosecutors. It does become a bit interesting, shall I say. And I can't imagine who the person was that cursed me with, oh, it must have been me. Cursed myself with, may I live an interesting life. Because be careful what you wish for. I wished for making more money, and I did. Unfortunately, with it came many dangerous, tense things that sometimes would keep me awake at night. And we have somebody else here. That's a dangerous bunch. Bruce, I do not know which is more dangerous, the mafia or the government. Well, I don't think the government, shoots anybody who doesn't agree with them. At least I hope not. And working with these people over time, even the mob hitman. I won't say we were friends, but at least we could talk casually. And his wife and the wife of the gentleman who took over the union worked in my office, were excellent workers. We really, it was like a family. We had brought in new brokers, of course, with the one that was tied to the union was the biggest producer, and it worked out very well. Did I get paid enough to bear the tension? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I wish I could have found another way to do it without being in the middle of all that danger. Somebody's saying Italian mafias are notorious and scheming and doing violence. That is for sure. The town that I was in had more than one family of mafia, but I only had to deal with one. I actually had one of their people come to me one day and say, "Is there anything you need? I mean, you could have this, that, and the other thing, so on and so forth, if you want." I said, "No, why? What's going on?" He says, "Well, we're robbing a truck, and that's what's in it." I didn't take anything. I didn't want to be a part of it. Not when everybody's breathing down your neck. It goes on for, let's see, when we have somebody else here. Looking back, are there a moment when you felt comfortable having lunch with the mafia and shady people? The answer to that is no. Just in my mind, it was be careful. And like I said, I did that stupid thing of speaking back to them in Italian. That was, to say the least, dangerous. But I managed to get through it without getting killed, obviously, because here I am. But Quinn's dilemma basically is, how do you survive in the middle of all of that danger? And the biggest reward was, as I said, I married a lady that I met during that period of time, and we were married for 33 years. And unfortunately, she passed away in December of 2020. Do I miss her? Oh boy, do I. And I can only imagine the heartbreak that families bear when their fathers and husbands are literally going against the law. And when somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, we're robbing a truck. What do you want?" What I wanted was not to know that you're robbing a truck, because heaven only knows the FBI could be listening in and say, "Well, why didn't you tell us?" Well, I don't know. I figured if I did, then I would be getting up close and personal to the hitman. But a lot of tension, a lot of tension. And this book leads through explaining what happens when you do something you think is okay, and you ultimately find out that it's not only is it not okay, it's actually potentially deadly. Oh, what made you retire and detach from these people? Well, what made me retire was I was 67 years old, and I thought I had enough. And when my partner moved in to take over the union, I one day I offered him a couple of $100 because they get elected, and he said no, because they'll call that bribery. Well, you can see you can make mistakes even when you think you're doing a nice thing. I thought it was nice. The government didn't think it was nice. And luckily, nobody knew about it. But if you're looking for something that's tense, leading, making you wonder. I've actually had people say to me, and I mean this sincerely, I started reading it and I couldn't put it down because when you're in a situation, I wanted to know what was going to happen. If the book is 90% accurate, did it cross your mind to make this into a movie? Really interesting. To be honest with you, I've been approached, let's just leave it at that, by some very large movie companies who have read the book and decided that it would make a good movie. One party actually said we might make a TV series out of it, but there's a lot of action in this book. There's a lot of things that you wonder, why do they do that? And why did I, who I am, you read the book, I am Parker Quinn. That's the principal character who's constantly under pressure and trying to stay alive while he still continues to meet with not negotiate, but speak with people from the not so nice place on Earth. Here, to not consider this into a movie is unthinkable. It's been a while since we've had a good mafia narrative. Oh, it's a good mafia narrative because I was deep in it. And in the town that I was living in, it was a fairly small town. I won't say where, but on one side of the town was mostly Italian. The other side of the town was mostly Polish. I was living more on the Polish side, shall we say, than the Italian side. Trust me, anybody out there who's Italian, God bless you. But avoid the temptation of joining that organization. I think you'll find this to be not only entertaining, but interesting. I think a lot of people say it captivated them and they had to keep reading it because they wanted to know what happened. And it's one thing after the other. Like I said, getting called in by the mafia is one thing. Getting called in by the FBI is another thing. Meeting a nice lady is another thing. And it's just, like I said, I lived it. I wrote it, and now you can read it. One more time. Quinn's Dilemma. And right on the cover it says, trapped between the Justice Department, the mob, and notorious union brings intrigue, violence, and murder. That is absolutely true. I think we're getting close to my time being up, but I thank you for watching and listening, and I hope you, shall I say, get brave enough to read this book, because it's real. I didn't have to make things up because they really happened. I can only hope that everybody out there has a good day And as I said, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and Reader's Magnet, all, you can buy a book from any one of them. And I hope that you do. And I am meeting with a movie producer, so we shall see what we shall see. I wish you all the best. And don't ever do anything stupid like I did for the sake of making a lot of money.